Hey, what's up, everybody? Steve here. Today, I wanted to share 10 little known ways to repurpose content. Of course, this is not an exhaustive list. There are infinite ways to repurpose content, and I'm thinking of new ways all the time. But I wanted to put down 10 different ways you can repurpose content, get those out there that you may not have thought about, just to give you some ideas on how you might go about it. Chances are you aren't implementing all of these strategies, but you probably could be. And I want to help you get as much value out of your content as you possibly can to squeeze all the juice out of it, because you're working hard to create videos, blog posts, emails, articles, whatever it might be. And I want to help you transform them into other mediums to get the audience, to get the traffic, to get the views, to get the sales, whatever your goals are. Content marketing can help, and repurposing is an essential part of that strategy. So without further ado, here are 10 little known ways that you can repurpose your content. Number one, and this is one of my favorites, is to repurpose a one-on-one coaching conversation. Too many people are offering coaching conversations either for free as part of their enrollment processes or to paid clients, and they're not squeezing out as much juice out of those calls as they quite possibly could have. Simplest thing to do, assuming you're recording them via Zoom or through some other means, is to simply hit record on those if you're conducting them over video calls. You hit record. You can even make it record by default such that you are recording everything you do. You can record it to the cloud, and later you can repurpose those conversations in various ways. First off, you can offer them to the client, the person you're coaching, as a way for them to avoid having to obsess too much over taking notes, jotting down every little detail, worrying they're going to forget something. You say, hey, after the call, I'll send you a link to the recording so you can always access it and rewatch it in the future. If you feel the need, if there's anything you missed or didn't get down fully, you've got it there. Then on your end, you can use the recording however your client might feel comfortable. If it's a free coaching call, you can make that the recording being released publicly or into your community is part of the value they're giving you and others by providing them with that free coaching conversation. Alternatively, if it's a paid coaching conversation with a client, maybe the client's comfortable with you releasing it in full or in part, or you can at least clip out your end of the call where you're sharing insights and tips and strategies that may be applicable to others in the future on social media, on your YouTube channel, on your podcast, whatever else you may want to do with it. You can also transcribe the recording of the call for potential reuse as an article, an email, a blog post, an ebook down the line. Who knows? Possibilities are endless. But if you're not recording the coaching conversation and you're not recording your end, you're missing out on valuable content that you're already creating as part of what you're doing for your clients, either future or current. That's way number one, one-on-one coaching conversations. Way number two is webinars. You may be offering webinars as part of your marketing process or for members of your paid community, and you might only be keeping those webinars inside the paid community. You may not even be recording them at all, but you could be. As long as you feel comfortable doing so and others agree to it, if someone else is hosting it, for example, say, hey, I'm happy to offer a free webinar to members of your group, but all I ask is that I be able to record the webinar and be able to repurpose it and reuse it in the future to benefit others as well. Personally, I've done over 50 webinars as part of my marketing process, and I recorded every single one. I chose to release them in full on my YouTube channel, on my podcast, so that even those who did not attend live could still benefit from the content. I would also clip out bits of those webinars to reuse in other contexts for social media, for reposting on YouTube in short form for those who would rather not watch the entire hour-long webinar, to give it a different title for SEO benefits as well. And I would also add those webinars to my paid community and neatly organize them there so that members of the community could benefit from those. I would also invite by default my paid community members to every single one of those webinars so they could benefit. Not only was it for marketing purposes externally for different groups, but also internally it was a perk as a bonus for every single member of my paid community. So highly recommend repurpose those webinars. That's way number 2 to repurpose content. Method number 3 is recording classes. Webinars and classes, I might draw a distinction between them. You might not. I choose to, though. For me, webinars are typically via Zoom. They are not as interactive as a class would be. A webinar might be involving slides. It might be 1 or 2 people on a stage of sorts discussing amongst each other, or maybe one person talks for one half, the other person talks for the other half. A class I would conduct via Zoom meeting typically to get a bit more interaction with members of my community. I don't offer these classes for free. I only offer them for members of the community. It's a chance for them to interact with me personally, get some back and forth time, and members of the entire paid community get to benefit as well. Those recordings, I would release them only in full within the paid community so that my library for my paid members is growing over time. But I would still clip out bits and pieces of those classes where I'm the one speaking, and I would release those publicly on social media, on YouTube, on the podcast potentially, in order to benefit others and let them get a peek at what's going on inside the paid community. But I wouldn't release the entire thing, because the entire thing is one of the unique benefits folks get for being in my community. And I typically wouldn't release the end of those who were members of the community. I wouldn't really, if they're speaking, if they're on camera, I typically wouldn't release their end in order to respect their privacy and in order to hold back a little bit extra so that those who are those who are out in the public are noticing, hey, I'm not getting the whole thing. I'm only getting clips. I want to see the entire thing in context. The context is a valuable bonus that members of the paid community get. If you're only getting the clips, you're obviously getting some benefit. You're seeing me, you're seeing what I'm putting out, but you're not getting it all neatly organized in the full length recording. Number 4 is enrollment conversations. I find that far too many people do not record their enrollment conversations, and I think this is a huge mistake. Your enrollment conversations, of course, are meant for a very specific purpose. They are to let potential clients get a sense of what you're offering, let you describe your offerings, let you learn a little bit more about the potential client and whether you're going to be a good fit with them. However, I personally find, and I found this with others as well, that when you're in an enrollment conversation and you're describing what you do, the value that you add for others, you're in the zone, you're in flow, you are articulating what you offer in an incredibly powerful way. And you describing what you do, what you offer, could benefit others as well to see the power of what you offer, whether it's coaching, whether it's courses, whether it's community, or anything else you might be doing. The enrollment conversation, you're often in your flow, and clips from that conversation could help potentially convert others, show them the value of what you're offering. You don't want to miss out on that. I highly recommend recording every single enrollment conversation that you offer, and those could also benefit other folks in the future as well. You might also offer some advice, some tips, some strategies, and you could get clips of yourself speaking from those conversations as well. And of course, it's always nice to have a record of what happened for you and for the potential client to articulate down the line, hey, this is what happened. Here's what I was offering. Let the client rewatch that before they decide whether they might want to enroll with you as a paid client. Method number 5, podcasts. I mentioned podcasts briefly earlier in the context of converting a video into a podcast. But what if you're simply recording podcasts alone and you don't like to record video on, or in certain contexts, you may not have used video for any reason? If you want to promote your podcast and reach a totally new audience, I highly recommend converting your podcast into an audiogram. If you convert your podcast into an audiogram, you're getting an MP4 file that you can post on social media, places like Facebook, places like Instagram, places like Twitter. These platforms at the time that I'm recording this, they don't allow you to upload MP3s directly, as far as I know. But if you have an MP4, a video file, you can then post it on these platforms and get some more exposure there. There are plenty of tools out there that allow you to create nice looking audiogram videos that contain waveforms. So basically, you see some motion, you see some movement, you get the sense, hey, something's going on. This is not static. Then the viewer can unmute their video or their computer or their phone if it was on silent, and they'll get to listen to what you were saying. There are also methods you can use to burn in captions into the video. So even if they're not in a situation where they're able to listen, they can still read and get a sense of what was going on. So repurposing a podcast into an audiogram, big opportunity there. Of course, those captions can form transcriptions to use as text format content in the future, like tweets, emails, blog posts, articles, and such. Method number 6 for repurposing content is emails. If you are sending emails to anybody, a lot of what you're sending and writing in those emails could be reused for other purposes. Quotes from those emails could become tweets. They could become the basis for blog posts with a little bit of editing, a lot that can be done there. If you're hard up for ideas on what to create videos about, maybe if somebody ever asked you a question via email and you gave them a response that could be useful for others, that could form the starting point, the jumping off point to create a short video encapsulating what you said in that email to reach a totally new audience in places like YouTube, places like social media, and such. Let's see, where were we? Method number 7, blog posts. You may have written some blog posts in the past and you weren't maximizing what you could do with them in terms of getting audience. Maybe in the past, your website was getting more blog post traffic, but it's since dropped as people are spending more time on social media these days. You can take the exact same text from those blog posts and just copy paste it, post it on Facebook, to your Facebook page, to a Facebook group, on LinkedIn. Personally, I find that some people don't like to watch videos, but they are big on reading text on social media. Maybe they're only skimming parts of it, but they're still hearing from you and seeing that you have valuable information to share. I found personally that when my image engagement wasn't quite as high, that same text contained within the image posted directly as text on platforms like Facebook, like LinkedIn, would get fantastic engagement. You can also take excerpts out of your blog posts and turn them into quote images for social media. I highly recommend giving this a try. Method number 8, tweets. Maybe you've been posting on Twitter for a while, but you're finding that you want to reach new audiences on video. You can take the text from your tweets and simply read it off and create a super short video, or you can create a slightly longer video and riff on what you said in that tweet a bit longer. So maybe a 200-character tweet can become a 3-minute video if you simply say what was in the tweet and add a little bit more context, add another example, or paraphrase what you were saying in a slightly longer way. Method number 9, ebooks. Maybe you've written some ebooks in the past, but you're looking to create an online course. You can take what you said, what you wrote in those ebooks, and create short videos covering each chapter or each page or each section of that ebook. I personally found that when I wanted to create my first on-demand video course, I just basically read off what was in the ebooks and created slides based on that text, and that became my course. This was several years ago, and I wouldn't do it quite that way today when I'm creating an online course, but back then it was like, I think it was 2012, 2013. That was the easiest starting point for me to create an on-demand video course. Taking my old ebooks and also, by the way, some old blog posts, organizing them better, putting them together, and creating the slides, reading off the script. That became my video course. Super easy, and people actually found it valuable. It was easy for me to do, but they liked it. And online courses, on-demand videos, they tend to get higher revenue, especially if you go for the recurring revenue model, than a one-off ebook purchase might. Method number 10, finally, physical books. If you have written a book and you're looking to market it, to get the word out there, you often find that publishers don't help you as much with marketing as you might like. And let's face it, a lot of folks these days are self-publishing anyway. So you need to get an audience of your own to help generate sales for that book. What if you took each chapter of that book and created a blog post out of it? Each subheading section can become an individual blog post. You can create short videos covering the highlights from the book and get exposure on YouTube as well as social media. You can read the book, create an audiobook out of it, and reach a new audience. Then different sections of that audiobook can become podcast episodes. Again, of course, as always with repurposing content, the possibilities are endless, and you can go always from one direction into another direction, starting with a video, create a podcast or a blog post, starting with a blog post, create a video or a podcast. Any direction works. I hope this gave you some ideas. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to reach out if you need anything at all. I'm happy to help. I always love getting your feedback, your questions, your comments.